I love to cook at home, and having good kitchenware makes all the difference in the world. Not only does good equipment make prep and cooking easier, but it makes it more enjoyable. This is why both Joel and I are huge fans of Made in Cookware. Their wide range of cookware, from pots and pans to knives and flatware and even glassware, are designed to be professional quality for right in your home. Joel is a big fan of their knife sets, and I just upgraded all of our stock pots and saucepans to Made in stainless steel ones. This goes along with my many other stainless steel, carbon steel pans that I have. I have over a dozen pieces, and I absolutely swear by Made In's products. Next, I'm getting a set of beer glasses. Yes, beer glasses for the whole podcast crew. Take your home cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN. Find out why pros like Grant Achatz, Sean Brock, Nancy Silverton, and Eric Repair trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN, and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour, more like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the only podcast that was not nominated for a Crushy Award, I guess. I didn't even know that they had a podcast section of their awards. But welcome to United We Drink right here on UnitedWeDrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I am so looking forward to not putting on boots anymore very, very soon. Joel isn't with us today. He has no internet at his house. So that means I only have Kevin Abbott here. So we get to talk about the Batman between us, because now I've seen the Batman, Kevin's seen the Batman, and we can make Joel really upset that he doesn't get to talk about his favorite movie.
It's the Batcast. Welcome to the Batcast.
The United We Drink presents the Batcast right here on UnitedWeDrink.com.
Perfect.
Not to get too much into it, but since everyone else has given their opinion on this podcast about the movie, I thought it was fine. It was fun. It was too long, for sure, too long. But I liked the portrayal of Bruce Wayne as not being a playboy socialite. I like the portrayal of Riddler. I think he's the most menacing Riddler that there's ever been. That I know. I'm not super into the comics, but at least cinematically and on film, the most menacing Riddler I've ever seen. It was shot very well. It was a very visually appealing movie. I like the music, although the Something in the Way kind of grew old after a while because it seemed like every interlude was a play off of that. But I thought it was a good movie. Best superhero movie of all time? No. Best Batman movie of all time? Still no. But I do like the idea of a further universe built on that.
Joel told me it was the greatest movie, full stop, of all time after he saw it the first time.
Yeah, I remember him saying that on Twitter. I think he might have backed off of that, but has gone to saying like best superhero movie.
Let's just do our best to talk about as many things as possible that Joel will get furious at because he will not be able to respond. This is basically an entire podcast full of last calls that Joel cannot interrupt.
That is true.
Which I love. I love that option here.
So we decided since Joel's
By the way, Mike, I have to. I'm not letting you off the hook. I didn't even get a proper introduction. So because Joel's not here, I don't even get a proper introduction. This is really some half-ass stuff, Mike.
Kevin Abbott, ladies and gentlemen.
Honor and a privilege to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I am actually. It is actually an honor and a privilege to be here because I was dying from COVID for about 9 days, and I'm just happy to be out of bed. I'm drinking a beer for the first time in over a week and a half, and I can almost taste it. It's really a lovely turn that my life has taken in the last 48 hours.
So did you lost your sense of smell and taste?
I didn't fully lose my sense of smell and taste. I did, however, get a side effect from COVID, which I did not know existed. I'm calling it shitty mouth. That is where I have this shitty taste in my mouth all the time. It's like
living in Florida.
It's like it's medicinal medicinal awful flavor in my mouth that was anytime I ate, right after I ate, it would be intensified. So for 2 hours after I ate, I had this terrible flavor in my mouth that I couldn't get rid of. And apparently it is a side effect of COVID, and many other people got it. But that was a pleasure that I didn't know was coming to me.
It's right there on the World Health Organization website, shitty mouth. I see
shitty
it
mouth
right here as a symptom.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better. It sucked to hear about that. I mean, I dealt with it back in a little over a year ago at this point. I was not yet vaccinated at that point in time. You are fully vaxxed and boosted, right?
Yeah,
so it was
and I shudder to
crazy to hear how intense of a reaction you had.
Yeah, it's terrible. I cannot imagine what I would have gone through had I not been vaccinated and had no immunity at all to this. And listen, I'm 40 years old. I'm in really good health as far as I know. And it kicked my ass, man. My wife didn't get it quite as bad, but she was in really bad shape for a couple days. And if you can avoid getting COVID, even though we have treatments and stuff at this point, don't get it. It's no walk in the park, man. Or at least in some cases, it's not going to be any walk in the park.
Well,
I know the pandemic's over and it doesn't exist anymore, but let's just say, for the sake of argument,
especially in our
that there's it's still something going on. You know, take some precautions. Still, it kind of sucks.
I'm glad that you guys are doing well. I'm glad you're on the mend. You said you are drinking a beer. So what are you drinking?
I am drinking the new batch of Endless Enigma IPA. Not only am I on the mend and feeling just, footloose and fancy free, I'm also back to plugging Barrel Amongst Beers, which is really where I belong. Endless Enigma Hazy IPA. We have done this beer now. This is the third time. It's a really juicy, fruity, tropical IPA, and this is the third release of it. By the time anyone hears this, it will be out. So if you are in Boca Raton and near the Barrel Amongst Tap Room, you can go in and grab yourself some. And some cans actually made it up to Central Florida, to our distributor up there. So there actually will be some out in the Orlando area, possibly over in St. Pete, up in Jacksonville, a few cases here or there.
Awesome. I'm having a Copper Point A10 Red IPA. One of our flagship beers. I also have my can of Liquid Death as always, and for my third that I usually have along with me, I have a little bit of High West Double Rye that I picked up from Costco. We are now Costco card-carrying members because...
Is that a new thing?
Yes, that is a new thing for us.
Key for frickin' diapers and wipes, man.
Oh yeah, my wife is like, she was debating the formula pricing, so she went back to like Amazon and compared it, and it was like very close. But Costco's slightly cheaper on that, but like she's like it not even in the same ballpark with diapers.
Yeah, for a parent of infant children, especially when you have two of them and that thing pays for itself. But also good stuff. I'm actually, strangely enough, this is actually a Costco, by the way. If you want to sponsor this podcast, I'm sure, Mike, you can talk to him. He would love to talk to you. But I am actually drinking Costco's Reposado tequila. I'm sorry, Kirkland brand Reposado tequila. And it is a drinkable, cheap tequila.
My wife
and that
bought
is
that too.
Yeah. Did you?
She says that it's quite good.
Yeah,
I'm not a tequila fan, but
it's not the best in the world, but for the price point, you can't beat it.
yeah, well, I think it was like $17, $18
For
or
a
something.
for
a big
for a
bottle.
1.5.
Yeah. Yeah, she was like, I'll give this a whirl, and she's like, this is pretty good. She's like, I want to see where it's made. I don't know if she said she was going to look it up, but I don't know if she did. But
Mexico.
that's probably a good guess. I would say dead on. All right, so it would have been a great segue for me to go off of your COVID story to be like, all right, so speaking of super spreader things, let's talk about CBC. Because that's what we're going to do today. And now Joel's even more mad because I'm sure he has opinions about this.
He has opinions about the Canadian Broadcasting Channel?
Yes. Purveyors of fine television up there in the Great White North.
I mean, I think it's important. I know that we have an industry podcast and we have a lot of people that are in the industry that are listening to us, but what does CBC stand for, Michael?
It stands for Craft Beer Courtesy. No, Craft Brewers Conference, typically an annual event held in a city in United States. We've had some weirdness with the Craft Brewers Conference, obviously, through the last few years because of COVID. The San Antonio version of it was canceled in, I think, 2020. They did not even attempt to host one last year. I think I might have had those flipped up, but they are doing it full force in Minneapolis right now as we are recording this. By the time this comes out, it will be over. Many brewers from across the country will have flown in to the Twin Cities and drank a lot of beer as something that they could do at home, and go to see people talk about beer, something they could do online, and go and just look at a whole bunch of stuff that they can't afford, or talk to solicitors who they would normally want to kick out of their brewery. So
you like this. So you're a fan.
You know what? When I've been to 3 CBCs, one with you in Denver, and then I have been to 2 with Joel in Portland and Philadelphia. You were in at the Philadelphia one. We hung out there.
Yes.
Also hung out with Phil. He was working with you at that time. It really is a good time to hang out with people who maybe you don't get to see super often, meet people who you maybe only know via online from beer Twitter or social media of some sort. And I think when you are maybe very green to this industry, the idea of going to classes and learning about stuff is really intriguing. But let's be honest, there probably a quarter of the classes going on are commercials for some sort of service. And then a lot of stuff you can find online of probably these people talking about these things. I'm not saying that it's all like really easy to find information, but after going to 3, and especially the third one being majority, like, I'm just fucking hanging out with you guys and let's drink beers. Let's go somewhere. Let's go watch Lucero. And it was like, I don't know what I'm shopping for on the floor. I haven't been given a budget or any direction on what I'm looking for. I don't know what classes I'm going to because I haven't been really given a direction that my boss wants me to go in. So this is pretty much just a schmoz. And you know what? CBC is kind of that. Do some brewers deserve that right now? No one deserves anything. But we've been through a lot over the last couple years. An excuse to get together and hang out and drink. Maybe that's what we need at this point. But Kevin, what do you think about CBC?
Well, first of all, it's funny because I've been to 3. The 2 that you mentioned, I did not go to the one in Portland, but I did go to one in Nashville. So we've both been to 3, just not the exact same 3. When I first got into this industry, and I was so enthralled by the concept of going to CBC, and I was at a brewery that would not have paid for me to go out and do such a thing. That just wasn't my place in that brewery, right? The owners could go out and do that, but it wasn't my place to go do that. And I dreamed about it because it seemed like such an amazing opportunity to learn so much and to see so many vendors and put faces to names and be in a position to grow your brewery and learn about new technology and then obviously the classes. And I really took it seriously the first couple times I went, going to as many classes as possible. And it's you understand pretty quickly that, as you said, and I think your biggest point is that if you're looking at this as an educational seminar, all this information is available online. You can get these seminars and stuff. You can get them all downloaded if you want. I mean, you can pay for that and get that and not have to get the plane ticket and this, that, and the other. But so much of this information is just available online, not in these talks, but it's just there. There's not a crazy amount of industry-specific hoarded knowledge that's being parsed out to the few, the proud, the people at that conference. I mean, we're talking about science that is readily available, and as more and more of this information and the internet becomes easier and easier to search, and there's more and more craft breweries, you can find this stuff. I'm not saying there's not value in those seminars, and to me, that was the big part of it. It was about learning about brewing. I went to one really interesting talk about natural fermentation with fruit, and the main speaker for that one was from, why am I missing the name of the brewery? They're in Texas, all wild fermentation.
Jester King,
thank you.
They're not all wild fermentation, but
they do a lot of wild fermentation. Yeah. A lot of wild. I apologize, Mike, but the gentleman from Jester King had a really good conversation and was talking about how they use fruit. But there wasn't a lot I learned from that because a lot of it was very straightforward, very obvious, and some of the things they said were things I can put in your back pocket. But excuse me. But yeah, I can't think, and I've done my best to go to as many of these seminars as possible. I can't think of anything that I walked out of a CBC conference with and went, man, my brewery's going to be so much better now. Or, man, I'm going to really take this with me and it's going to revolutionize or what have you, or enhance the quality of what I'm doing. Because the information is so readily available. We have friends in the industry that work at breweries of different sizes, some bigger than ours with better labs and whatnot, and we can learn from them. So this stuff is out there. It really does come down to the idea of hanging out, of the fun aspects of your conference and going out and drinking and going to new restaurants and palling around. And I feel like, my wife works in the mental health field, and they go to conferences all the time. And it's in every field. The conferences are kind of just playgrounds to get together and have a good time. And yes, it's more important for her because she's in a field where you have to present, and it's a part of your job, and it's a part of your pay structure eventually down the road if you work at a university, especially a public university like she used to. But I think it's kind of a universal thing across businesses that conferences are a larger part of bullshit and fun than they want to sell themselves as.
Yeah. And, going back to what you said, whether or not you have actually walked out of a CBC classroom or class or seminar and been like, I learned something great there. I actually think that there's there's one in particular that I can think of that I thought was pretty great, and it was, I want to say that it was in Portland, and it was John Mallett from Bell's Brewery, who's the operations manager there. He was running a kind of open panel discussion with other ops managers from larger breweries. It was Madison from Cigar City, Jason from Allagash. I can't remember, sorry, the guy from Three Floyds and the guy from Victory that were there. And these are all pretty substantially sized breweries, but a lot of it was very safety focused. And I was given the task of like, I need to create a safety plan for our brewery. And I was the safety officer. So I was like, this could probably be beneficial. And it really was. I mean, there was tons of talk about simple safety measures that were put into place for their plans, and then how they evolved over time for the scalability of their breweries. And they were very open and knew that, hey, what we're doing is very different than probably some of you smaller guys, but this is something that you can do at a small scale that's super easy to implement and beneficial to the safety of all of your employees. And I was like, fucking sweet. And I came back and I built my safety plan off of that, and I showed it to my boss, and Kevin doesn't know how to use his mute button. And I heard you blowing your nose, but I came back, did the whole thing, and was told, okay, that's cool. It doesn't apply to me though. Like, well, you need to lead by example. And that's, it was like, that was something that John Mallett talked about, is Larry Bell, if he walks into the brewery, he has to adhere to the safety plan of the brewery, and he has to follow those rules. And like, yeah, I'm not doing that. This is my brewery. I can do whatever I want. But all the rest of you guys, like, all right, cool. Wasting my time. But I learned something great in the process, and got to hear some really smart people talk about beer. But yeah, other than that, I hated the expo floor. It was pretty much my worst nightmare working in a brewery. Come to light that I hated solicitors who came into the brewery. I avoided them or was hostile to them at every turn that I had. And this is just every solicitor that ever walked into my brewery or called my brewery or somehow got a hold of my email or sent an email to the general email and just kept on doing that. And like, why am I like, this is terrible. I don't want to go talk to any of these people. Oh, beer station? Sure, I'll have a beer. But like, sometimes it was okay to go meet like maybe your rep for one of your vendors, and they would be like, hey, we're doing an event at this bar tonight, so come on by. Like, okay, what do I get for free there? But
where's my t-shirt?
Pretty much. Hey, BSJ, you got any nut rolls hanging around back there? What do you got? But other than that, I fucking hated the expo floor. I tried to avoid it. I tried to just go to some dumb seminar that I had no business being in instead of being on that floor if I needed to. Or I would just try to find someone who I knew and pal around with them and be like, hey, let's talk, let's hang out, let's drink a beer. You want to go to a bar down the street? Because I don't want to be here right now.
Well, this is the thing, and because the times that I've been at CBC were mostly when I was a brewer and in brewing mode, and my focus was on quality, my focus was on making my beers better. And so that's why I talked a lot about the seminars and how I wanted them to be important, I wanted to be impactful, and saying that I did not take anything away from them that was going to be revolutionary to me. It's not to say that you wouldn't or somebody else wouldn't or other people in the industry haven't. First of all, I've been to 3 CBCs. I didn't go to every single seminar that I went to, and I've been in this industry for over 10 years. So yeah, actually almost 12, 13 years now. So yeah, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that I didn't get and is available out there, and people have been enriched by it. I feel like if you're going there looking like this to be like a haven of new cutting edge information on producing beer and selling beer, I don't know that that's where it is. And if we are looking at this, and I'm taking this entire conversation as the aspect of a person who runs the finances of a brewery, if I'm going to say, am I going to take the money to send myself or one of the people who works with us to CBC, I need to get an ROI on that. And in my experience, I haven't seen it. Moving on to the expo floor, I'm the opposite of you. I love the expo floor because I felt like I might find something good. I still hasn't really happened, but I was always optimistic about it because unlike that situation where a solicitor was walking into your brewery, I could choose to walk up to a table. I can walk right by them. And I can choose who to engage with. And if I'm looking for a piece of equipment or a certain ingredient or what have you, packaging, what have you, I can kind of seek them out. They're in the same vein of the educational aspect. I can't tell you about this time I went to CBC, found this small producer of cardboard and saved myself a buttload of money. And now, we're retired and living on a desert island somewhere. There hasn't been a lot of things that have come out of those encounters that have been really valuable to my previous breweries or my current brewery. But I love the idea of being there and being able to see some of these new options for flavorings or these new options for packaging. Packaging material is a big part of what I do and what I'm always trying to nickel and dime people for. But other than a few deals that will happen during CBC where, your first order is 15% off or what have you, or we're selling the floor model of this thing. It's not like people are going there and earning this business with these great deals. These are people of giant companies that can afford to set up there, and they want a return on their investment too. And part of that is selling their stuff at a premium and making money off of it and getting on the radar for breweries like ours. So it's interesting because I look at it as I said about a investment, and I can't justify that investment any longer for myself or people in my brewery, even though I'd like to go for fun or I'd like to go to visit that city. It's just not in the cards for us anymore.
Yes. And that's kind of what it becomes, is a little vacation, a way to get away from the hubbub of your brewery, of your market, and go see some other market. Go hang out with probably people from your market, because those are the ones who But I do remember in Philadelphia, you guys shopping around looking for a 12-ounce bottling line, and someone who we know telling you that was the dumbest idea that you ever had. No names will be named, but
cheers.
You guys are doing all right with that.
Well, and by the way, and this is the thing. So my partners went to CBC with me, and we got a 12-ounce bottling line from CBC.
Yeah.
Now, did we get a great deal on it? Could we not have gotten that bottling line from other means by just contacting people online? Absolutely. It was a way to get in front of some people and get some information. When you are looking to make large investments in machinery and things of that nature, it can be helpful. It absolutely can be. But of all the breweries that are going to that every single year, all the people representing all the breweries, how many people really are? How many people are in the position to spend that kind of money who are buying a brew? The brew houses are the ones that blow my mind.
Yeah.
Because they are literally the people that are the Cigar Cities of the world, the New Belgium. They're not buying new brew houses at CBC. That is literally set up for startups.
Yeah.
Right? And I just find it so insane that they go in and they put together a whole brew system. They set it up on the floor. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. And somebody who's in a lot of cases has never brewed a professional batch of beer in their life is going to buy that system off that floor and go put a 20-barrel brew house and get 15,000 square feet off of a homebrew recipe that their buddy really likes.
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but you said people going and looking to make a large investment in a piece of equipment are making a large investment into a large trip to make that large. It's just like spending money to spend more money. Like you said, you could just send an email, fill out a contact form online to a bunch of these places and not have to buy a plane ticket and lodging and entertainment fees. Like it's. Don't get me wrong. I've had some great times hanging out at these. I don't recall. I'm gonna save you all if it hasn't been said, but. My first time at CBC was in Denver with you in 2013, maybe. I think it was. And we got high as fucking skunks on edibles there.
Yeah, we
so
did.
much so that I lost track of the time of day. But I loved hanging out in Portland. I fell in love with Portland. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. At CBC, I got to go to Philadelphia. Again, one of my favorite cities in the world. Maybe even my favorite city. That I'm biased on this, and I got to hang out with you and Joel and Phil, like three of my best friends in practically my hometown, and that was a lot of fun. We got to see you and I, one of our favorite bands, who played just for brewers who could care less, and yet were there hanging out, watching them. I've had some great times at CBC. I didn't have to pay for a single plane ticket. I didn't have to pay for a single pass to the entire thing. I didn't have to pay for any hotel. I didn't have to pay for any Ubers because I could just put it on the company card. I got to put so much stuff on the company card. I barely paid for stuff on my own dime. If this was my brewery, yeah, how much is the digital stuff? Like, I don't know. But I would be, that's my thought would be, I'll maybe pay for the digital stuff, because if I really need something, I'll contact those people on the floor. If I really need to learn something, I have Google. I can find tons of stuff. I do it all the time, looking for ways of applying different practices in the brewery, different practices of marketing and design and photography. I remember probably the seminar that burned me the most was one that I was really excited for, and it was in Philly, and it was like building your brand. And I was like, okay, this is something that like I really want to help us with. I think we had just recently been through a rebranding of our logo and just entire brewery, and it was a fucking commercial for a design firm and a marketing firm. And I was like, this is not what I fucking thought it was. And I was not the only person who walked out of that seminar, because there were a lot of people who were obviously like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be someone giving some advice on things, but they were like that very vague marketing jargon and being like, hey, we are a marketing firm. Like, fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. And that was the last one that I've been to, but I mean, not all necessarily by my own choice, but yeah, it's a good time to hang out. It's a good time to maybe do a little bit of research and like, yeah, you can get two birds stoned at the same time. I'm sorry, kill two birds with one stone. But if you want to hit up a bunch of vendors for a particular thing, if you're really in the market for something, like you said with your bottling line, hey, you might be able to talk to 3, 4, 5 people who manufacture bottling lines and just get that all done. But it's a lot of money to spend to do all of that in a couple days that email is much cheaper on.
Well, I think the important thing is that we have people listening to this that are in the industry that might be considering going. They went this year, they might be going next year. It's at one point I thought I needed to go because it's where the industry was happening, where information was being shared, where business was being done. And I wanted to be a part of it. And it's funny, one of my partners at Bear Lamont's, Keith, has always been skeptical of CBC and always said, well, no one needs to go to that. And it's just a waste of time. Because he's looking at the ROI.
Keith have something in common? Fuck off.
Yes. The ROI is always what he's looking at. And he's like, well, what are you actually going to get from this? Right? He's said before, if you want to go and it's a trip for the guys and it's just a way to get away, the brewery can pay for it. It's almost like, it's like a retreat. It's a perk of the job. Fine. If that's what you want, go ahead and do that. But don't think you're going to get these great stuff out of it, these great returns out of it. And early on, I was of the opinion, no, this is, like I said, this is where business is done. This is where these are all the greatest minds in craft beer are going to be here. And I need to learn from them. And I need to be around this. I need to be there for the opportunities that may present themselves on the floor. And over many years, I've come along to Keith's mentality going, yeah, if I was in a position next year to send, say, one of my brewers, Ralph, to CBC. I don't believe he's ever been to one. My guess is he's never been to a craft brewers conference. I think it's a pretty good guess. And he wanted to go. I'd love to send him if he wanted to go. I'd love to be able to be in the position at the brewery to send him to that. Not because I thought he's going to learn a bunch about hops and not because I think he's going to make some great purchase for us, but just to be around it and to experience it. And that is where I am at with that conference at this point. It is a time to network. It is a time to see your friends. It is a time to meet new people, make connections. And it can be, it can be a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of fun. The times where we were traipsing around Philadelphia were amazing. They were an absolute blast. And the times that we spent in Denver, I'm talking specifically about the times that you and I were there together, were absolutely a blast. They were so much fun. When I went to Nashville, I went by myself, but I went with my family in the industry way, but I went with my family. My wife and my newborn child were there. And it was fun in its own way because, well, we had some restrictions because I had a newborn child, but I had a good time. And the city was great. Just visiting that was amazing. But if you are considering putting that money down, asking what you're actually going to get from it and taking advice from people who have been there and people that have been in the industry, saying, nah, you can pass this up and spend that $1,000 or whatever it is somewhere else. There's somewhere else in your brewery that you could spend that money to get more money back.
You can
without
spend
a doubt.
it on your employees, going back to last episode.
There you go, Mike. Yes, absolutely. give your people a bonus and say thank you for what you're doing, and you'll probably get that back tenfold. I wanted to mention what you talked about the seminar that was basically a full-on marketing pitch. We also cannot discount the seminars that are panels that nobody there is really running them, and it's just a bunch of people in a confused state on a stage having a conversation, sometimes about the topic, and just meandering around for 30 or 40 minutes. Because that happens all the time. We have to remember that not everybody in the craft beer industry, and you know what? I'll even get bigger because we have TikTok and everyone thinks that they're an internet star. Not everybody in the world should be in front of a microphone presenting to other people because they don't have the skill set for it. So you have these situations where you have these panel discussions that are neither a discussion, I guess they are a panel, but they're not a discussion. They're just meandering, free-range thoughts about whatever. I've been in 2 or 3 of those, and been in the situation like you were in the sales pitch where I said, okay, my time could be spent better getting lunch, I guess. So I'm going to leave this. Or the kind of seminars that are on a topic you're interested in, but are so rudimentary about that topic that they are for the intermediate, the introductory person, the person starting a brewery. And that's the other aspect.
Or there's even a topic that you think is good for you, but might be way too advanced or like bigger than what you are. I remember that happening in Portland. Joel going to a seminar about dry hopping that was actually done by a friend of the show, Maddie Smooth, over at New Belgium. And Joel being like, I thought it was really valuable information, but there is no way to implement what he was talking about on our system. It's just way too big, and we are way too small for that. It is funny that when he was telling me about that in between seminars, that Matt came over and was like, "Hey, can I butt in here and plug in and charge my phone?" and was talking to us for a little bit, and that's how we met Maddie, and he became a friend of ours, talking about, hey, I was just in your seminar and such. But yeah, there's a lot of that going on too.
But that specific thing is something we always go back to in our industry. And anytime we're talking about marketing, and anytime we're talking about trying to sell your beer in a store, in a bar, in a chain restaurant versus the restaurant down the street, we always go back to is that we pretend that we are all in the same business. New Belgium is not in the same business as Barrel of Monks. In any way, I mean,
You're
make
in the same
beer.
industry, but not the same business.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Huh?
But no, that's
I was seeing if
that's
I
a
was
better.
smart with something.
No, that was a better way to put that. What they're trying to accomplish, their economies of scale, we might as well be doing different things. And then Barrel of Monks compared to a startup or a tiny nano, we are in a different business. We need different things. We require different things to operate on a daily basis. We're going after different clients. And when you go in and see, wow, this is building your brand. Building your brand, if you have 200 people in that room, the odds of the person that's talking to you is going to give you information about building your brand in general, probably not great. Because building my brand is so much different than building the brand of a brewery doing 1,000 barrels a year or 10,000 barrels a year. Because we're doing different things, we need different things. There are universals, there are crossovers, there are constants. There's no doubt about that. But really taking a lot out of that from someone who has this experience, unless they're amazing, unless they're a presenter that is going to walk through every single aspect and every single layer of this business and give good advice there, you're not going to pull a lot out of that conversation or a lot out of that seminar. And as we've talked about, just because you're in this business doesn't mean you're a great presenter, doesn't mean you can eloquently put out information that people can easily absorb. So I think that's where that hiccup comes in trying to turn this into this great educational retreat. Because even if you had the best possible people to do things, there's no guarantee they're talking to you.
Yeah, for sure. Not to leave this on like this kind of a downer thing, because look, you and I mean, we probably didn't spend a whole lot of money ourselves from our personal bank accounts going to these, even though you are a principal on your brewery and you've been there twice as Barrel of Monks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You didn't have to personally splurge on any of that, or a lot of that. Let's talk about some fun things that have happened at the Craft Brewers Conference in your past. If you could pick out maybe a couple things just for funsies, because you know what, there's people who listen to the show who actually like hearing stories from us, who actually believe that we're someone's, and maybe just want to hear a fun little tale of a good time, whether it be a drinking thing or a seminar or whatever from a Craft Brewers Conference, to at least give some sort of positivity to it.
I mean, one of my favorite things is one night it was myself, you, Joel, and Mr. Phil Parmigiano hanging out in Philly, and we have a great picture of the four of us. We were traipsing around where our hotel was. I can't remember where you guys were staying, but that was the Dem Wolves night, which is a total inside thing that no one needs to understand, but it was very funny to us. That was one of those times where I felt like, oh, I'm with my people. I'm in a cool city. We're eating good food. We're drinking good beer, and we're just having a blast. And that was definitely one of my favorite nights, just kind of being a brewer, being somebody who met a lot of these people. Well, actually, that's not true. The only person I would technically say I met through beer directly in the industry would be Joel. You and Phil I had met at a bar. I mean, I guess around craft beer, but not while we were in the brewing industry. But, three of my favorite people in the industry and good friends of mine just kind of hanging out. I think that was one of my favorite trips overall. That was overall just a really, really cool time.
Yeah, because that night in particular was a World Beer Cup award ceremony, and practically when we got through with where our awards were done, I also do remember Joel and I snuck over and sat with you guys. You guys had like a table that you had paid for seats at, and we came and just kind of crashed at your location. And then after you were like, oh, we're done with our categories, we're done with ours, we're going to go hang out. And we just walked around, and we took a picture in front of the love sign that was displaced at that point, not in its normal location, because we were just walking, and I'm like, oh, there it is. We went to a little convenience store, got some beers, and hung out in your hotel room. You were staying at a fucking stupid nice hotel, and just had a fucking blast talking. It was a really good night, and that was a fun trip. Even on Cinco de Mayo, when I lost my shit at a restaurant over at the Tab.
Oh yeah, well I forgot about that. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Hey, everyone just throw in $25, and me who had bought $5 nachos and $2 Tecate was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And there was a bunch of people who I didn't know, so I was just I was inebriated. So I had a little bit of an outburst in a restaurant about how much I was paying.
Yeah, Philly was real fun. That was also, as you mentioned earlier, where we saw Lucero in concert, which I had no idea was happening, I don't think, until I was either there or on the way there.
I told you a couple days before because I found out about it. Like I got some email from the Brewers Association that they were doing a concert just for, like, you had to have a CBC badge to get in.
And that's before we saw Lucero in Florida, right?
No, it was after.
That was after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
that was
we saw Lucero at Culture Room when we were both still working at Due South.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I said the name. Gonna have to bleep that out.
Well, one of my other favorite parts about CBC, I think, was that exact same trip when our former boss spent maybe an hour to 2 hours telling me that everything I was doing was wrong and that none of our beers would ever be successful and that basically everything I was doing was a mistake. That was pretty fun.
Yes, that was at Good Dog Bar. And that was what I was alluding to earlier about telling you you're looking for a 12-ounce bottling line? That's dumb.
Well, honestly, like, I think you need to be. There's two things I need. One, I need because of your memory
of our pasts.
Well, but not, the fact that you remember these things, the exact bar we were at. First of all, I need you to just follow me around at all times. We need to just be together permanently, and I need you to be my personal biographer because you know more about my life and the things that I've done than I do, and it's not necessarily. I'm worried about my brain and my cognition. But you would help a lot in that.
It's funny. I am pretty good with, like, remembering directions and points of interest. But the Mexican restaurant in Philly where I had my little blowout, I did not remember what that place was. Even when I moved there, I was like, where did this happen? And I couldn't find where it was until one day my wife and I were going to Trader Joe's to do some shopping, and I took a different route. And I was like at a stop sign, and I look across the street, and I remembered that it was on a corner, and I remembered that it was west of Broad Street. And I was like, that's it. That is it. That's the place. I still don't know what the name of it is, but I was like, that's the fucking place that I was like, I had to tell my wife the whole story.
Fist pumping, and you're just, for someone with your memory, that's got to be a big win.
Yeah.
Are you positive that people care about these stories?
Some do.
Okay, because I'll keep going. So when we were in Denver, that was the famous time where you went in to pay your tab at the bar.
And didn't know how.
And I came in, I want to say 10 minutes later. It could have been 2. But you were standing 5 feet from the bar and just standing there. And I walked up to you and I said, Mike, what are you doing? And you said, I'm going to pay my tab. And I said, yeah, but you're not at the bar. You're standing way far away from it. And you said something like, I don't know how, or I don't know if I can talk, or something of that nature, something that you would say when you were incredibly stoned. And I helped you walk up to the bar, and you had like the money in your hand, and you were just like, I'm going to pay for my beers now. And that entire time was both, just amazing. That is a time I remember very well. I don't know any of the names of the bars we went to, but I do know that I will remember that for the rest of my life. That's a great CBC memory for me.
That was
when you were
Black
vulnerable.
Shirt Brewing in Denver. I do know that. And then I convinced everyone to walk to Crooked Stave.
And we were almost murdered.
Yes.
And then by the time we got there, you had a beer and then was like, man, it's getting real late. I got to go home. I got to go back to the hotel. And I said, Mike, it's 5 p.m.
it wasn't 5. It was like 8:30, and I thought
It was still light outside.
I thought it was midnight at best.
It was still light outside. Whatever time it was still, the sun was still out. And you were very surprised when I told you that.
You luckily got in the Uber with me to make sure that I got back to the hotel all right.
And then I went back out because I was still
you did.
stoned at that too. And my God, that was a long, long, long evening.
Yay, edibles.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to some of these experiences, I kind of lump, I find a lot of the, to bring this back around to CBC and kind of its value, I find the CBC experience very similar to a lot of out-of-town beer fests when you don't sell beer in that particular market, but you get invited because you're a friend of a friend or because your beer gets some notarization and you go to, Extreme Beer Fest or what have you. There's no real upside. No one's going to buy your beer in that market because you don't sell your beer in that market. But you feel like going there is going to give you some kind of cachet or something's going to happen. Something's going to happen out of it because you're there and you're represented and people are going to go, man, this is an up and coming brewery because they were at this beer fest. But what it really is it's an excuse to go to a beer fest, like every other beer fest you've ever been to in your lives. Meet people, drink beer, and hang out. And speaking of that, Joel and I are going to, Boulevardia in a couple months. And I'm expecting it to be the exact same thing. Now, I do sell beer in that general market, in the Kansas side of things of Kansas City. But I have no delusions that we're going to sell 40% more beer in Kansas City because of us being at Boulevardia. I just know Joel and I are going to go out and have a good time. He had a connection there, a friend that got us an invite, and it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to making some memories, just like we just talked about.
Yeah, you're going to meet some fine people out there that I'm already jealous of. You getting to do before I'd even do, and I've known these people at least on Twitter for a while.
That doesn't count.
Joel did that festival before for Due South. Fucking said it again. And
you're off your game, man. When Joel's not around, this is a completely different show.
Yeah.
We talk about the Batman, we say Due South. Oh no, I said it.
But and it was all because of a connection Joel had. Joel knows people and in high places, which is hard for him to reach.
He's going to have so much.
Was here.
He's going to have so much fun listening to this. It's funny that Joel is one of the most, out of all of us, if we had to rank us on curmudgeonliness, is that a word?
Sure.
It would be Joel the most, me second, you third, I believe.
Probably, yeah.
But Joel's the most gregarious out there. He knows all these people from all over the place, very friendly. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're the one that gets all the gifts from everybody.
Joel gets a lot of gifts, too.
I guess he just never talks about them on the podcast and to rub my nose in it.
It's funny. He's gotten gifts from a lot of the same people that I do. They will give us, if they're visiting in town, they'll go to both of our breweries and drop off stuff for both of us, or they'll mail stuff to both of us.
So I'm sorry to go off on this tangent, but did Phil get a lot of gifts too?
No.
Okay, thank God, because I thought it might just be me. Is it possible that the people that listen to this podcast hate me?
You're not on social media, man.
That's true. Okay.
Where we meet a lot of these folks.
That is what I will use when I'm crying tonight to make myself feel better. When I'm weeping and lonely and say, well, everyone must hate me, I'll just remember I'm not on social media, although I am under a fake name.
Just make yourself a Twitter account. And
is that still a thing?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
That's basically where we met a lot of these people is on Twitter. Probably a lot of our listeners are from that side of things. So
the Twitterverse?
Yeah. Oh, it's a terrible hellscape of a place in general. But there are some really fucking nice people on there in this industry, affectionately called hashtag beer Twitter. And like it's funny that I have conversed with so many people that I kind of look up to in this industry on there whose breweries I think are fantastic and are either owners or very long running employees at and it's crazy that they think something of me, a brewer marketing seller guy who works for a brewery that makes 2,000 barrels a year in Boynton Beach, and yet I converse with people from places that make many thousands of barrels a year, and they're just like, hey, I love that last episode, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is fucking insane. That people care about my opinion. Who the fuck am I? Mitch Hedberg. That's right.
Well, Mike, I can tell you're fishing for some compliments.
No.
You're handsome, you're a great husband and father, you're an amazing person when it comes to the brewing business, and you're my best friend.
You're right. I am my best friend. But yeah, I mean,
Now's when you say nice things about me.
you
Never
are
mind.
swell.
I know. I don't, that would be too
and
much.
Your wife loves you a lot.
I'm sure there are people in the world who can tolerate you.
You're the most well-read Bukowski person I know ever.
Yeah, see, these are things. I'm guessing we're going to go into last call here at some point, right?
Yeah. But you know what? Let's do last call. Let's just cut this bullshit off and go into more bullshit that we
Listen,
can't actually
you were the
oppose.
one that you told me people care about us. They care about our stories. We just spent about 15 minutes jerking off. That's basically what we just did. And you're probably going to come back and say this is the most popular part of the entire podcast. And listen, our people are amazing, apparently, and very interested in our lives.
I don't have by the minute breakdowns on listenership, but I'll blow some smoke up your ass next week.
Okay, sounds good.
So let's head into last calls, which is pretty much what we just did for the last 15 minutes. But normally this is the part of the show where we get to have individual time to talk about whatever we want, unopposed, unobjected, uninterrupted. And since it's just the two of us, it makes it pretty easy. Kevin, how about you start things off?
I will start things off. So, a week or so ago in Florida, the Department of Health, I believe, and I may butcher some of this, but you guys can Google it, put out new recommendations on how mental health professionals are supposed to deal with kids who are identifying as trans. Basically, their directives go completely counter to everything we know about science, every bit of research we have, every bit of procedure that has been developed over decades of mental health professionals working with people in that community. This is a follow-up to what is often called the Don't Say Gay bill that I talked about a few weeks ago or now a month or so ago on the podcast and my last call. And this is another awful, nefarious thing that our state government is doing, is basically telling mental health professionals that they should not be doing the things that are proven to help people in this situation. And this is up into, talking about how using, proper the pronouns that they want to use, talking with them about being in their community, basically anything that is going to help somebody in that situation, they are basically telling them not to do. And this opens up for litigation against people in the mental health profession, for those who choose to follow the scientific consensus on how to help and treat people that identify as trans. My wife is a mental health professional, and she recently did an interview where she talked about this in a local Miami paper. And she's one of the good ones. She's one of the heroes that's working her ass off to try to make people's lives better. This is terrible. This is one of the very, very saddest things that a government would take on a political stance that has nothing to do with the established science in order to cater to their base and threaten mental health professionals and not give them the tools they need to do their job. I don't know how pervasive this is throughout the entire country, but this did not get the play in the media as the quote unquote "Don't Say Gay" bill, but it's as devastating and possibly even more so. And we don't even know about it, and people aren't talking about it as much, and I think that's a shame. There are people out there doing the work, trying to make other people's lives better, trying to help people, and the state government is trying to stop them from doing it. It breaks my heart. I am in awe of people like my wife and the other people in the mental health profession that are going to say, fuck you. They're going to do their jobs. They're going to help these people. They're going to get licensed in other states so that they can continue to treat people and not risk their licenses and not risk their livelihoods. That's a big, hairy deal, people. These are heroes. These are the best of us. And they're trying to look out for people who are so marginalized, so trodden upon, and need the most help.
Well said. Big ups to your wife. Big kudos to your wife. All right. So I'm actually going to throw my kind of plug into my last call. I'm not doing anything so heartfelt. So sorry that I am taking a turn. But the time this episode comes out, we will be a few days away from our 7th anniversary at Copper Point Brewing in Boynton Beach. And we have a little get-together that we are doing at the brewery on Saturday, May 14th. We'll have a bunch of special release beers on tap, 3 food trucks, live music, just a good old-fashioned fun time to hang out and celebrate making it through, especially these last couple of years. Have been tough and trying at points, but I'm really proud of where we are at this point. Our sales through this first almost 2 quarters have been phenomenal, up big time from last year, and last year was our biggest year that we ever had, and a lot of that leading with our lager, and that's a beer that we're super proud of over there, and it's a beer that not a lot of people are doing because lager. And if you want to come out and show some love, I would love to see you. I'll be there on the earlier side of things and hanging out with some of my coworkers, probably my wife and kids and some family. And so I would love to see some people who maybe I haven't seen in a long time. Maybe I haven't seen at all and just only talked to online. It would be fun to clink our cups and say cheers and enjoy a beer and all that, because that's also going to be kind of like this big transitional point to me from what I was talking about, was it 2 episodes ago, of my transition in the the brewery and the company, that I'll no longer be working in the brewery and I'll only be a marketing person. And so like come enjoy some beers that I had a part in making physically before it's all I'm a part of making them kind of digitally. That might not make sense, but whatever. We're really excited about it, and we're really looking forward to having a good time with people. 7 years is fucking crazy. I've been there for now 2.5. May 14th at our brewery, Copper Point in Boynton Beach. If you're around, come on by, have a beer. No big whoop.
Be
Kevin,
there or be square.
Kevin, do you want to plug anything?
We have our can release that has already passed by the time this episode comes out, but Endless Enigma and Monk in the Park Belgian Dark Strong Ale have just come out. They are in limited quantities. I hope you guys will come by Barrel of Monks and check them out. We're really proud of those two beers.
And was it Wizards going back into cans again?
Wizard will be in cans again. We've also got a really great Pilsner on draft called Island Journey. We've got a lot of fun stuff. I really think that the quality of the beer, the variation of styles, the things that, and I'm glad Joel's not on this podcast. And I've said that maybe 3 times throughout this. But, I might not have said that, but I was thinking it. Because I'm going to say something nice about him. And anytime you say something nice about Joel, he scowls at you. So the beer that Joel and Ralph and Ben are putting out right now is some of the best we've absolutely ever did. And it is not just in the Belgian vein. It's different styles. It's more complex. It's just incredible. Pilsners, barley wines, great hazy IPAs, doing great Belgian dark strongs as well. I think if you come by our tap room, you're going to see one of the most interesting draft lists we've had and the most varied. And I'm just so freaking proud of those people and what they're doing.
Got to see if maybe some weekend afternoon we can meet you guys up there, bring the boys and have a couple beers because I really want to try your Pilsner.
I know you will give us a honest opinion and be very, very straightforward. It's one of the things I appreciate so much about your palate and your honesty in our friendship, Mike.
Oh, shucks.
This is just a great love fest. See, we've just turned this into something beautiful.
All right. If you want to follow the show on social media, our accounts are at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. You can listen to the show in one of many different fashions if you're just coming across us and you're like, hey, how can I listen to you more easily? We're on all of the major podcast apps, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're on those, Overcast, all of those things. If you search for United We Drink and you can't find us on an app, let us know, and we will do whatever it takes to be on there. But otherwise, you should be able to subscribe to the show and listen to our new episodes every 2 weeks on the device of your choice. If you would like to if you would like to support this show monetarily, you can visit some of our sponsors and brands that we really love by going to our website, unitedwedrink.com/sponsors, places like Made in, Liquid Death, the Death Wish Coffee, brands that we actually believe in and we actually use. We're not just going to say like, hey, MeUndies, send us some money and go check them out, even though we don't use them. Now, these are places that we actually believe in and that we use and that we believe that you guys and gals out there would enjoy because you listen to a beverage podcast. You can
And
also...
let me say, we are so adamant that you be able to hear our podcast in the easiest way possible, that if you email us directly, we will come to your house, myself, Mike, and Joel, and we will do a podcast in your home. That is, don't tell anybody. No, don't tell your friends. But if you want to do that, email Mike directly and he will set that up. I don't care where you live. We will come to your house. We will do a show in your home whenever you want. Thank you.
It's like having your own CBC in your house. Like, we'll give you seminars. We'll try to sell you stuff.
I will eat the food out of your refrigerator. We'll sleep in your guest room. There's a lot of perks.
We'll charge you for the room and board.
Just reach out to Mike. He will make all this happen. I promise you. That is the promise. That is a 100% promise from United We Drink, said by me. Mike, make it happen.
It's out there now. info@unitedwedrink.com. I don't know.
I totally broke your concentration.
Other than we'll be back in a couple weeks. Joel should probably be here. I guess he'll have internet back by then, unless the world's all going to shit and it's starting in West Boca. So that means it's coming to you soon, Kevin. For Kevin, for Joel, because we get to speak for him on this episode. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Cheers.
Cheers.